everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. I'm back again. It has now been another 2 or so months since I posted anything, so it's been a little while. But I do really want to do my end of year videos that I always do because they're always so much fun to reflect on the year, wrap things up, look forward to the next year. So I am coming back to do all of that kind of stuff. I thought that I would start with easing myself into it with something that is an easy video, which is a book haul. Always love a book haul. They're so easy. They're just pure enthusiasm. Also, the last time I did a book haul, I think was in May. So it's been a long time because it's December now. Granted, for a lot of those months in between, I wasn't really buying any books. Most of these were actually bought just in the last couple of months, which is actually really good because for a lot of this year I have just been reading less, and a lot of what I was reading was rereads, so there weren't a lot of books coming off of my TBR. So I'm just kind of glad that naturally my book reading and my book buying kind of kept pace with each other so that my, TBR didn't explode. I actually think I'm going to be ending the year with slightly fewer books on my TBR than I started with, which is good that it's slowly going down. I'm trying to be a little more intentional with my book buying, but you'll see that it doesn't always work out. So I have about 30 books here to talk about. I may have misplaced 1 or 2 of them just because it's been a while since I bought some of these, but we got 30 to talk about, so I think that's plenty. All right, so I'm gonna start with my first loose category, which are books that were gifts. So first up, I have 2 books that were gifts from my friend Kara. So the first one is The Beast is an Animal by Pieter van Arsdale. This is actually a book that we had talked about, and I think that she saying that she thought I might like it, so sent me a copy. So I'm very interested. I actually don't know a lot about what this is about, but I do think it has a magical forest, so that is always intriguing to me. And then the other one is a book that I've been wanting to read for a long time, which is The Brilliant Death by Amy Rose Capetta. This is a YA fantasy that I think is has an Italian-inspired setting, and the main character is a gender fluid shapeshifter, I think, which always sounded very interesting to me. So I have really been wanting to give this one a try. So thank you very much, Kara, for both of these. The other books that I have that were gifts are from Book Night for Hanukkah. So Hanukkah was at the beginning of December, so we've already done all of our gifts for that. And we always have a book night where my family goes to a bookstore and my mom buys us 1 or 2 books that we pick out. So I have 2 books here. The first one is The Spear That Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. This is a book that I have seen the cover around and have kind of always assumed that it was YA paranormal fantasy, a contemporary fantasy, and for some reason I thought it took place in a swamp, and it never really, I just kind of assumed it wasn't really my thing, and I think a lot of that was based on the cover because I just am not really a fan of this cover. But then I saw a review of this recently that made me go, I was completely wrong as to the plot, setting, vibes of this book, and it is much more interesting sounding than I thought. I think that it is a lot about storytelling. I think there is someone who is telling a story, and then within that we are hearing the story that this person is telling, and it is a story of these 2 men who are going on a quest, and I think they're going on a quest to save a god, and I think there's also a romance between the 2 of them. But I also heard that it has just such a unique writing style and form of way of telling this story that just is very captivating, and it just sounded so intriguing that I really wanted to pick this up. And I have read little snippets of it and I really liked the writing, so I just really want to give this one a try. Very excited about it. And then the other book that I got for book night is The Second Rebel by Linton A. Lewis. This is the second book in the First Sister trilogy. I actually read the first book recently. You can probably surmise that I liked it because I then immediately wanted to get the second book. So this is a sci-fi series. It's multi-POV, and I don't want to get too much into explaining the multiple like perspectives of it, but I have really been enjoying this. I actually am already reading this book. I'm probably about a quarter of the way into it and really liking it. And then I actually also bought the third book so that I would have this as well. This was not part of our like book night gifts, but I did buy this with a gift card that I got from my job. Every once in a while they will do like spot rewards or like little thank you gifts to people when you go like above and beyond or do something special. And earlier this year I received a Barnes & Noble gift card as like a little thank you from my work. So I bought a couple of books. This is one of them. I actually have one other book that is still in the mail, which is Sisters of the Vast Black. I've forgotten the author's name at the moment, but that will be in my next book haul once it gets here. But anyway, so that is how I acquired this as well. So now I have the full series. This entire series has fantastic covers. I love the cover art. I do not love that each book in the series, the cover like texture is slightly different. The first book is matte, but it's like embossed, so there's like raised letters and stuff, which I loved. This one is a smoother matte and it's not embossed, but I was like, I can deal with that. But I'm very annoyed that this one is shiny because it just so much doesn't look like the others. And also I generally just don't like shiny books. I don't like the way that they feel as much, and I don't like the way that they look. And they're also annoying to hold up because they reflect light. So I don't know why they felt the need to make that, but I am glad at least the cover art stayed, like the style stayed consistent, because I do love the cover art for this whole series. Okay, on to the next category. This is a category of books that are either from authors that I have previously read or continuations of series, just books that from authors that I have previous experience with. So first up, we have books 3 and 4 of the Boudica series by Amanda Scott. So this is Dreaming the Hound and Dreaming the Serpent Spear, another series where the first 3 books are like matte and the last book is shiny, and I'm annoyed about it. But I have read the first 2 books. I'm thinking my next video after this one will probably be a wrap up of all the books that I read over the fall, so for September, October, November. So you will see my review for the second book, but I decided to pick up the 3rd and 4th. This is historical fiction about Iron Age Celts resisting the invasion and occupation of the Roman Empire in Ireland. So glad to have those. Let's see what else. I also picked up Shaman's Crossing by Robin Hobb. I have intended to read this series, but also really internally debated whether I wanted to read it because I've had such a mixed experience with Robin Hobb's books, although I do think she is a great writer, and I've heard mixed but fairly negative things about this series in particular. I also think it might be a little more military focused, which doesn't always work for me. But I thought I'd give it a try. I think I'm gonna try and read it in 2024. I took a complete break from Robin Hobb in 2023, and this is just a trilogy. It's not connected to any of the Realm of the Elderlings, so it'll be a little bit easier to kind of get into, and I'm just gonna read the first one and see what I think. I'm not totally committed to this series, but picked up Shaman's Crossing. I also picked up The Oleander Sword by Tasha Suri. This is the second book in, I think the series is called The Burning Kingdoms. The first one is The Jasmine Throne, which I read a couple years ago. I really wanted to give this a try, especially since I've liked other books from Tasha Suri. So I think my enthusiasm for this has been renewed. Then I picked up The Swan Maiden by Jules Watson. So Jules Watson wrote The White Mare, the White Mare series. I don't know if the trilogy has a different name actually, but the first book is called The White Mare. Anyways, I read the whole trilogy this year. I loved the first two books. I was a little disappointed with the third book, but it made me want to try other things from this author. I think she only has like 2 or 3 other books, which are mostly fairy tale retellings, this being one of them. And then the last book in this category is Starborn by Lucy Hounsom. So this is the same author that wrote Sister Song. So she goes by Lucy Holland for Sister Song, but this is a earlier book that she wrote. I think this may have been her debut, but I'm not totally sure. But when she published this, she was going by the name Hounsom. And I actually don't know that much about what this book is about. I just really wanted to give this series a try because I enjoyed Sister Song, so I thought I've been meaning to try something else from her, try her backlist. I think this series doesn't get as strong reviews, but I thought I'd give it a shot, just see what happens. Then I have 2 books that are like fantasy, historical fantasy kind of retellings. The first one is Morgan Is My Name by Sophie Keach. This is a recent release that is about Morgan Le Fay, and Arthurian retellings can be extremely hit or miss for me, but you know, as I said, when they hit, I love them. I thought I would give this one a try. And then this is one that I actually had not heard of at all, but I saw it in the bookstore and I was like, I need to give this a try, which is Inanna. This is a mythology retelling about a female character in the Legend of Gilgamesh, which is a ancient Mesopotamian epic, which I read a very long time ago, but you don't often see Gilgamesh references in the things or retellings. I think it is one of like the oldest epics that we have. So I really want to give this one a try. I just think it sounds really interesting. And yeah, you don't get a lot of Gilgamesh references out there, so I really am curious about this one. Okay, now we're on to probably my largest category, which are like contemporary fabulism kind of books. So part of this stemmed from the fact that I reread Garden Spells around in like October, I think it was, or maybe it was at the beginning of November, I don't remember. But then I was very much in the mood for things that were that kind of contemporary fabulism type of story. It also made me realize that I wanted to have physical copies of some of the other books that I had read that were in that genre. So I have a couple of books that I have already read. The first one is The Peach Keeper by Sarah Addison Allen, who also wrote Garden Spells, and then also First Frost. This is the sequel to Garden Spells. So I've already read these years ago. I just wanted to have physical copies of them. And then I also picked up Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. I had like technically read a version of this, but it was an abridged version, so I decided to pick up a physical copy to get the full story. Then I have a few books that are in the same like category, but are ones that I had not previously read. So because I was kind of on a Sarah Addison Allen kick, I picked up Other Birds, which is her most recent release, I think from last year. And then I also got Lost Lake, which is one of her older backlist books. And I picked up The Girl Who Chased the Moon, also by Sarah Addison Allen. This is another one of her backlist books. So I bought quite a few of her books. Most of these I bought used, other than Other Birds because it's a new release. But the rest of these I think I got from thrift books. Then continuing on in that vein, not Sarah Addison Allen, but also like fabulism kind of books, I picked up Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young, The Book Charmer by Karen Hawkins, and Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe. These all seem, well, these two seem like they'll be very cozy. I'm not sure how cozy Spells for Forgetting will be, but it has gotten some pretty good reviews, so I was very curious about it when I was like very in this mood. And then not exactly the same, but kind of in my mind was sort of connected. I also happened to pick up Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. So this is just contemporary literary fiction. There's no like magical fabulism element to this. However, I picked this up around the same time because, well, a few reasons. It is following this family, and it's really about this woman who has 3 adult daughters. I think this is taking place during lockdown in 2020 when the family is all together and like her adult children have kind of come back home to all, you know, hunker down together. And she is telling them the story of like her youth and how at one point she had a relationship with this man who went on to become this like incredibly famous actor. So it is sort of 2 storylines following like the story that the mother is telling, and then also the present time about this family and these sisters and their relationships with each other and their mother and all of this. So I picked this up partially because a lot of the like more fabulism type books that I was reading had this big emphasis on like families of women and their relationships to each other. So I was kind of in the mood for that. And so I was kind of intrigued by that in this. I also have been wanting to try Ann Patchett just because I hear so much about her books and people seem to love her so much. But every time I have looked up any of her other books, the premises just really don't speak to me. They just really don't sound that interesting or really something that I would be able to grab onto. And like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe once I got into it, I would be able to fall in love with it. But of the descriptions of her books that I have read, this one sounded the most like something that I might like. Okay, so we're in the home stretch. These are the last few books that I have to haul. It's kind of a miscellaneous, like there's a graphic novel, a couple nonfiction, some poetry. It's just a mishmash at the end. But first up, we have Heartstopper Volume 5. This is, I think this might end up being the final installment in Heartstopper, but I'm not totally sure. But of course, I have been loving this series. I have a couple of nonfiction here. So one of them is, I finally picked up a physical copy of Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I have been meaning to read this for a very long time. It gets incredible reviews from like a huge range of people. I actually have read a different book from her that I don't remember the name of it, but it was about moss. And I thought that one was very interesting, but this one gets even better reviews. So finally picked up a copy of this, which I'm very much looking forward to. I also picked up The 4 Tendencies, indispensable personality profiles that reveal how to make your life better and other people's lives better too, by Gretchen Rubin. So I came across this person's like theory of personality, which has to do with like how people respond to demands placed upon them, and it kind of creates this little like 2x2 matrix about like, and then that creates different like types of responses. And the little bit that I read online was very interesting, so I wanted to pick up the full book. I am very excited to get into it. And then the last nonfiction that I have is Language of Trees, a rewilding of literature and landscape. And I believe that this is actually a collection of essays from various authors who are all like talking about their feelings and approaches and ideas of nature and nature in writing and literature, which just sounded like a fantastic combination for me. So I'm really excited about this. And also if you want to see, so it has this little like funny half dust jacket. Then underneath it has all of the roots of the trees, which is cool. All right, Then I have a couple of poetry books. The first one that I have is Observer's Atlas by McKenna Suman, is that her last name? Yes, McKenna Suman, who is a YouTuber and like an online influencer. I've seen some of her poetry floating around. I was kind of intrigued by it, and I saw that she came out with a book, and it is a very pretty book. So I decided to pick it up, give it a try, see what I think of it. And then I also actually rebought a book. I got Wildly Into the Dark by Tyler Knott Gregson. I had a copy of this, I lost my copy, and so I decided to rebuy it. Tyler Knott Gregson is one of my favorite poets, so I really wanted to like replace my copy of this book. So I probably will actually reread this soon, because the thing that I actually was like most annoyed about having lost my copy was that I had marked my favorite poems in the book. So I think I'm gonna probably reread it soon and remark my favorites. Okay, and then the final thing that I have to haul is my 2024 reading journal. So this year I actually got a slightly different reading journal. I got a different brand and a different size. I'm trying something new. Actually, let me get my old one so I can show you a comparison for like size reference. This is my current reading journal for 2023. This is my new one for 2024. So you can see it's a bit smaller. For years, I have been getting the Archer and Olive B5 journals. They are very large. I really liked the color and design and the, what is this called? The like, it's linen bound are the ones that I always got. This year, I was kind of unimpressed with their selection, so I decided to give something else a try. And I've been kind of interested in notebook therapy for a while, which is where I got this one from. So they had a better variety of colors that I was interested in. This one is from their Mori collection, which are all very like nature, earthy tones kind of theme. They have linen bound covers, which I like, and I like the little designs. They're pretty much exactly the same in terms of like structure as the Archer and Olive. I don't know about like how they stand up over time because I just bought this, but in terms of structure, they're essentially exactly the same. They have pretty much all the same features. The slight like aesthetic differences that I've noticed is just that like this has a little image on the spine, which the Archer and Olive does not. This also has gilded edges, which this one does not. However, this has a little ampersand charm on one of the bookmarks, and this one, the bookmarks are plain. But other than that, like they're very, very similar. I decided to get a smaller size this year, partially because I always end up feeling like I have too much space in these. There's just like a lot of empty white space, which at first I really liked, having a lot of real estate to fill in however I wanted and draw and doodle and do all of these things. But I think that I have been wanting to be a little more minimal this year, and also just decide I want to kind of fill up more space, condense things down so that I really like use full pages instead of having so much white space. And I never end up using all of the pages in this. So I'm also kind of hoping, even though I'm going to be sort of condensing things down, because the pages are smaller, I might end up using more of the pages. So anyway, that's sort of my reasoning for it. But so far, I really like this. I have started setting up my 2024, you know, journal and everything. So I've got my spreads all started here, which is very exciting, and I can't wait to start using it. But I like, so far I'm liking this smaller size. Okay, that is everything. That is the entire haul. I would love to know what books you have bought recently, if you have read any of these, or you're really excited to like hear more about any of them in particular. But thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.